Jun-Ho Kim wiped his sweaty palms on his formal uniform for the 5th time in 10 minutes. The blue and gold fabric, Earth's chosen colors for this historic meeting, felt too tight around his neck. The air in the grand hall of the Navian Palace was warm and sweet-smelling, nothing like the recycled air of the human embassy where he had spent the last 3 months. "Stop fidgeting," Ambassador Han Bin whispered, his face frozen in a perfect diplomatic smile. "The Queen will enter any moment." Jun-Ho nodded and tried to stand taller. He was only here because the senior diplomat had fallen sick, perhaps from the alien food or maybe just nerves. Either way, Jun-Ho, just 2 years out of diplomatic school, was now the one holding the crystal gift box that would be presented to Queen Era of the Navian Empire. "Remember," Han Bin added, "just bow, present the gift, and say the greeting exactly as we practiced. Nothing more." The greeting had been hard to learn. The Navian language had sounds that human throats struggled to make. Jun-Ho had practiced for hours, but still wasn't sure if he was saying it right. A bell-like sound rang through the hall. The Navian court, tall blue-skinned beings with shimmering clothes that seemed to change color with each movement, turned as one toward the grand doorway. "Stand ready," Han Bin said through his fixed smile. Queen Era entered, and Jun-Ho forgot how to breathe. She was taller than the other Navians, nearly 7 feet of graceful blue form. Her skin had patterns of lighter blue that seemed to flow like water. Her eyes were large and deep violet, set in a face that was alien yet somehow beautiful. Her head was crowned with what looked like living crystal that caught the light and broke it into colors Jun-Ho had no names for. She moved to the center of the room and stopped. The entire court bowed low. Han Bin and the Earth delegation followed suit. "Now," Han Bin whispered as they straightened, "present the gift." Jun-Ho stepped forward, his heart hammering so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. The Queen's violet eyes fixed on him. He bowed again and held out the crystal box with both hands, lid open as he had been instructed. "Great Queen Era," he began in careful Navian, "this humble gift from Earth we bring to honor your—" His mind went blank. What was the next word? Something about stars and light. He took a breath and said what he thought was right. A strange sound rippled through the court. Jun-Ho felt cold sweat on his back. Had he said something wrong? Queen Era's eyes widened. Then, to his shock, her blue face broke into what was unmistakably a smile. She stepped forward and placed her 6-fingered hand over the crystal. "I accept," she said in perfect English, her voice musical and deep. The court erupted in sound, bells and chimes and voices all at once. Flowers were suddenly thrown from the balconies. The Navians were all turning to each other, talking excitedly. Jun-Ho looked back at Han Bin for guidance. The ambassador's diplomatic smile was gone, replaced by a look of absolute horror. "What's happening?" Jun-Ho whispered. "Did I say the greeting wrong?" Han Bin grabbed his arm. "Wrong. You didn't say the greeting at all. You said—" He stopped, looking at the celebrating Navians. "You said the ancient proposal words. You asked for her hand in marriage, and she accepted." "I did what?" Jun-Ho felt the room spin around him. Queen Era was now standing before them, still smiling, her violet eyes fixed on Jun-Ho with what looked like curiosity and amusement. "The stars have chosen strangely," she said to Jun-Ho, her English perfect though oddly musical. "But who am I to question fate? We will be good partners, Earthman Jun-Ho." As the court celebration grew louder around them, and Han Bin's grip on his arm tightened painfully, Jun-Ho realized that his diplomatic career had just taken a very unexpected turn. He had accidentally proposed to the alien queen, and she had said yes. This is a disaster. Ambassador Han Bin paced the small room where the Earth delegation had gathered. His perfect diplomatic calm was gone. An absolute disaster. Jun-Ho sat with his head in his hands. An hour had passed since the ceremony. The Navians had taken the crystal gift, now apparently a marriage token, and whisked it away to some sacred place. The Earth diplomats had been escorted to this waiting room, while the palace prepared for what they were told would be a small celebration feast. "I'm sorry," Jun-Ho said for the 10th time. "I practiced the greeting. I don't know what went wrong." Han Bin stopped pacing. "The 5th word. You were supposed to say, Nai Lhta, meaning prosperity. Instead, you said, Nai La Keth, the sacred proposal word. And the way you held the crystal box, with the lid open and at that angle, it's exactly how Navian marriage proposals are made." Su Jin Park, their cultural advisor and translator, nodded. In Navian tradition, offering a crystal that way while saying those words is the oldest and most formal way to propose marriage. But why would she accept? Jun-Ho looked up. "She's the queen of an entire star empire. I'm nobody." Su Jin brushed her short black hair from her eyes. "Navian royal marriages aren't about love. They're political. By accepting you, she accepts Earth as an ally." "Can I take it back?" Jun-Ho asked. "Explain it was a mistake." Han Bin's face went pale. "Absolutely not. If you reject her now, after a public acceptance, it would be the worst insult possible. The alliance we've spent years building would be destroyed overnight." The door slid open. A tall Navian in shimmering robes entered and bowed. "The queen requests the presence of her betrothed." All eyes turned to Jun-Ho. "Go," Han Bin whispered. "Say as little as possible. We need time to figure this out." Jun-Ho followed the Navian through crystal hallways that seemed to sing softly as they walked. His mind raced. How had a simple diplomatic mission turned into this? The Navian stopped at a large door carved with star patterns. "Her Majesty awaits." He bowed and left. Jun-Ho took a deep breath and entered. The room was smaller than he expected, with walls that looked like flowing water frozen in time. Queen Era stood by a window that showed the 3 moons of Navia rising over purple mountains. "Earthman Jun-Ho," she said, turning. Without her formal crown, she looked younger. "You seem troubled." Jun-Ho tried to remember Han Bin's advice to say little, but standing before her, words failed him completely. Queen Era smiled. "You did not intend to propose." "It wasn't a question." "No, Your Majesty," Jun-Ho admitted, relieved she understood. "It was a mistake. I meant no disrespect." She walked closer, her movements graceful despite her height. "Yet I chose to accept." "May I ask why?" He knew he should stay quiet, but curiosity won out. "Politics. Necessity. Perhaps a bit of fate." She looked at him with those violet eyes. "Your world has military strength but needs our technology. My empire has advanced technology but faces threats we cannot fight alone." Jun-Ho blinked. No one had told the Earth delegation about threats to the Navian Empire. "The marriage custom includes a 3-month evaluation period," she continued. "During this time, we determine if we are compatible as rulers together." "I'm not a ruler," Jun-Ho said. "You are now Earth's highest representative on Navia," she replied. "Your ambassador confirmed this when I spoke with him earlier." Jun-Ho's mouth fell open. Han Bin had already spoken to her and made him Earth's representative. "Your sleeping quarters are being prepared in the palace," Queen Era said. "Tomorrow, you will begin learning about our ways as I will learn about yours." She turned back to the window. "The stars have strange plans." Jun-Ho Kim. Perhaps this mistake was their intention all along. As Jun-Ho left the Queen's chambers, his mind spun with questions. What threats did the Navians face? Why had Han Bin made him Earth's representative? And how was he, a junior diplomat with barely 2 years of experience, going to handle being engaged to the queen of an alien empire? Jun-Ho's new rooms in the palace were bigger than his entire apartment back on Earth. The walls shimmered with soft blue light, and the floor felt warm under his feet. A large window showed the capital city of Navia spreading out below, its crystal towers catching the light of the rising sun. "This will be your home during the 3-month evaluation period," said Su Jin as she helped him unpack the few things brought from the Earth Embassy. Ambassador Hanbin wants daily reports. Earth Command is sending new instructions tomorrow. Jun-Ho sat on the edge of a bed that seemed to adjust perfectly to his body. How did I go from junior diplomat to Earth's representative in one day? Bad luck. Good luck. Su-Jin shrugged. Han-Bin had no choice. The Navians now see you as Earth's chosen one. If we sent someone else, they would be insulted. A soft chime sounded at the door. A Navian servant entered and bowed. The Queen invites you to breakfast, honored Earthmate. Jun-Ho looked at Su-Jin with panic in his eyes. Go, she whispered. Remember your training. Learn everything you can. The breakfast room was smaller than Jun-Ho expected, with just one round table set for 2 people. Queen Era was already seated, wearing simpler clothes than the day before. Without her formal robes, Jun-Ho could see that her blue skin had patterns like waves flowing across it. Good morning, Jun-Ho Kim, she said. Please sit. I hope you slept well in your new quarters. Very well, thank you, Your Majesty, Jun-Ho said as he took a seat. When we are alone, you may call me Era. She gestured to the food. We have prepared Earth foods for you, though I hope you will try some Navian dishes as well. Jun-Ho looked at the spread of familiar and alien foods. He carefully took some Earth fruits and what looked like Navian bread. You are nervous, Era said, watching him. This is understandable, but perhaps we can use this time to learn about each other. Jun-Ho nodded. What would you like to know? Tell me about your family, she said. On Navia, family lines are very important. Jun-Ho relaxed a little. This was easy. My parents are teachers. My father teaches history, and my mother teaches science. I have one sister who is a doctor. We're just ordinary people. There are no ordinary people, Era said, her violet eyes watching him closely. Each person is shaped by their world, their family, their choices. You chose to become a diplomat. Why? Jun-Ho thought about it. I wanted to see new worlds, meet new people, to help build understanding between different cultures. Era smiled. A noble goal. And now you have certainly met new people. For the first time since the ceremony, Jun-Ho laughed. Not quite how I planned it. Era's laugh was like music. The universe rarely follows our plans. As they ate, they talked about Earth and Navia. Jun-Ho explained human customs, and Era spoke of Navian traditions. When he tried a Navian fruit that tasted like sweet fire, Era seemed pleased. You adapt quickly, she said. This is a human trait we admire. After breakfast, Era showed Jun-Ho the palace gardens. Plants with moving flowers followed them as they walked. Small flying creatures that looked like glowing fish swam through the air around them. Beautiful, Jun-Ho said, watching the flying creatures dance in patterns. Yes, Era agreed. Beauty is one thing our worlds share, though we see it differently. She stopped walking and turned to him. Jun-Ho, not everyone is happy about our engagement. My cousin, Prince Tao, believes I should marry within our own people. He may try to cause trouble for you. Jun-Ho felt a chill despite the warm garden air. What kind of trouble? Political at first, then perhaps more direct. Her violet eyes were serious. Be careful who you trust. The palace has many ears and eyes. As they continued walking, Jun-Ho realized that his diplomatic mission had become much more complicated and dangerous than he had ever imagined. And yet, as he watched Queen Era greeting her gardeners with genuine warmth, he couldn't help but be curious about the woman behind the crown. A week passed quickly. Jun-Ho spent his mornings learning Navian customs and language with Su-Jin, and his afternoons with Queen Era, who showed him the workings of her government. Each evening, he sent reports to Ambassador Hanbin and received messages from Earth Command. They want me to learn everything about Navian defense systems, Jun-Ho told Su-Jin one morning. But that feels wrong. I'm not a spy. Su-Jin looked worried. Earth needs Navian technology. But I agree, it doesn't feel right to use your position this way. As they talked, a tall Navian with dark blue skin entered the room. He wore the marks of royal family on his clothes. "Prince Tal," Su-jin whispered, quickly bowing. Jun-ho bowed too, remembering Era's warning. "So this is the human who tricked my cousin," Prince Tal said, his voice cold. "How clever of your Earth government to plant you here." "It was a mistake, Your Highness," Jun-ho said. "I meant no trick." Prince Tal laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "A diplomatic mistake that gives Earth access to our palace, our queen, and our secrets. Very convenient." Before Jun-ho could answer, the door opened again and a female Navian guard entered. Her uniform marked her as high-ranking. "Captain Mech," Prince Tal said. "Why are you here?" "The Queen sent me to escort Jun-ho Kim to the royal gardens for today's meeting," Captain Mech said, her hand resting on her weapon. Prince Tal's eyes narrowed. Of course. The Queen's new pet must not be kept waiting. He turned and left without another word. Captain Mech watched him go. "Be careful of that one," she said to Jun-ho. "He has wanted the throne for many years." The royal gardens were full of nobles that day. As Jun-ho walked with Queen Era, he felt their eyes on him. Some looked curious, others angry. "Your cousin is spreading stories about me," Jun-ho said quietly to Era. She nodded. "Tal tells everyone that humans planned this from the start, that you are here to steal our technology before the Dracs arrive." "The Dracs?" Jun-ho asked. "Who are they?" Era stopped walking. "You don't know. The Dracs Empire has conquered 3 systems near ours. Our spies say they will attack Navia within a year." Jun-ho felt cold. "Earth doesn't know about this threat." "That is strange," Era said. "We sent information about the Dracs to your government months ago." Their talk was interrupted by a shout. One of the garden platforms above them had broken. A large stone pot was falling straight toward them. "Queen Era," Captain Mech shouted, running forward. But Jun-ho was faster. He pushed Era aside and jumped away just as the heavy pot crashed where they had been standing. It broke into pieces, sending sharp shards everywhere. Jun-ho felt a burning pain in his arm where a shard had cut him. Red human blood dripped onto the white garden path. Captain Mech helped the queen up while other guards ran to the broken platform. "Are you hurt?" Jun-ho asked Era. "No, thanks to you," she said, her violet eyes wide. She looked at his bleeding arm. "But you are injured." "It's nothing," Jun-ho said, though the cut was deep. "Accident or not, someone will answer for this," Captain Mech said, her hand on her weapon again. Later, after Jun-ho's arm was treated by a Navian healer, Queen Era visited him in his rooms. "The platform was damaged on purpose," she said. "This was no accident." "Prince Tal?" Jun-ho asked. "Perhaps." Era looked troubled. "But there are others who don't want Earth and Navia to be allies." She took his hand. "You saved me today." "Why?" Jun-ho blinked, surprised by the question. "Because it was the right thing to do." Era smiled slightly. A very human answer. She looked at his bandaged arm. "From now on, Captain Mech will be your personal guard. I cannot risk losing my future husband to another accident." As she left, Jun-ho realized something important. The engagement that had started as a mistake was now much more. It was dangerous, it was political, and somehow it was becoming personal. 2 weeks later, Queen Era invited Jun-ho to join her on a tour of Navian territories. They would travel by royal shuttle to visit 3 moons where important mines and factories were located. "This is a good chance to learn more about Navian technology," Ambassador Hanbin told Jun-ho during their daily call. "Earth Command is particularly interested in their shield systems. I'm not comfortable spying on them," Jun-ho said. "They're facing a real threat from the Dracs. Why isn't Earth telling me about that?" Hanbin looked uncomfortable. "That information is classified. Just focus on your mission." The royal shuttle was beautiful, with clear walls that could be made solid when desired. Captain Mech and 6 royal guards came with them for security. As they flew toward the first moon, Era showed Junho the star map of nearby systems. These 3 systems have already fallen to the Drax, she said, pointing to red stars on the map. They are moving closer to Navia with each passing year. What do they want? Junho asked. Resources, slaves, power. Era's face was grim. They destroy what they cannot use. Why does Earth keep this secret from me? Era looked at him. Perhaps they don't trust you with such information, or perhaps they have their own plans. Their shuttle landed on the first moon, where they toured a factory that made parts for Navian ships. Junho noticed that while Navian technology was advanced, their weapons seemed basic compared to their shields and engines. That night, as they prepared to leave for the second moon, warning lights flashed throughout the shuttle. Engine failure, the pilot called out. We need to make an emergency landing. Captain Mech moved quickly to protect the Queen. Could this be sabotage? They landed roughly in a forest of strange silver trees. The shuttle's communication system was damaged in the landing. The nearest city is 2 days' walk, the pilot said. I'll need help to repair the engines. I'll send 4 guards with you to the city, Captain Mech decided. The rest of us will stay with the Queen and Junho. As night fell, the temperature dropped quickly. Inside the shuttle, Junho found Era looking out at the silver forest, now glowing softly in the moonlight. It's beautiful, he said, joining her. Yes, this moon has some of the most stunning forests in our system. She turned to him. Junho, there's something I need to tell you, something important. Her serious tone made him nervous. What is it? The Navian Empire is strong in many ways, but we have a weakness. Our people are peaceful by nature. For centuries, we have focused on building shields, not weapons. She looked into his eyes. That's why this alliance with Earth is so important. Your people know how to fight. We know how to defend. Junho thought about Earth's military history. Together, we could stand against the Drax. Yes. Era took his hand. Her blue fingers were warm against his skin. But there's more. The engagement that began as a mistake, it has become something else for me. Junho's heart beat faster. What do you mean? I have watched you these past weeks. You are kind, smart, and brave. You think differently than my people. You see solutions we miss. Her violet eyes searched his face. These are good traits in a partner, whether political or personal. Junho realized she was saying she had feelings for him. And as he looked at her, he knew he felt the same. Despite their differences, despite the strange way they had been brought together, he had grown to care for her. I feel the same way, he said softly. Before Era could respond, Captain Mech burst into the room. Your Majesty, we found something. The engine wasn't damaged by accident. It was sabotage. Era's face hardened. Then we are not alone on this moon, and whoever followed us here wants us dead. Captain Mech ordered everyone to stay in the shuttle, while the remaining guards searched the nearby forest. Junho and Era waited in the main cabin, the lights dimmed to make them less visible from outside. Who would follow us here? Junho asked quietly. Prince Tal is the most likely, Era said. But it could be Drax spies. They have been watching our borders. A soft beep came from Junho's pocket. His Earth communicator was receiving a message. He pulled it out, surprised it still worked on this moon. I need to check this, he told Era. It might be important. He stepped into a small side room and opened the message. What he read made his blood run cold. *URGN Earth Command to Dipel Ogmemet Kim. While on tour, you who newest access NAVI Shield SPECS Queen's Personal Shuttle Contains ACCSSCODES in MAN computer. Use Attache DPWAROGRAM to COPY data. Earth Most AAVDS TCK Genealogy Before any GOTIH Ashonance Continue. Failure not ACCETABL**. Attached was a small program designed to steal data from Navian computers. Jun-Ho stared at it in shock. Earth Command wanted him to betray Ura's trust, to steal from her while she was in danger. Jun-Ho, is everything okay? Ura called from the main cabin. He quickly closed the message. Yes, just checking in with Earth. He rejoined her, his mind racing. What did they say? She asked. Jun-Ho couldn't meet her eyes. Just checking that I'm safe. Captain Mech returned with the guards. We found footprints heading east. At least 3 people. They may be watching us now. We need to move, Ura decided. This shuttle is too easy to find. They gathered emergency supplies and slipped out into the silver forest. The trees gave off enough light to see by, casting everything in a soft blue glow. They walked for hours, following Captain Mech deeper into the woods. Jun-Ho's thoughts were troubled. Earth was asking him to betray Ura. Why? If the Dracs were a threat to the whole region, didn't Earth need Navia as an ally? Unless Earth had made a different plan, a terrible thought struck him. What if Earth had made a deal with the Dracs? They made camp in a small cave. While Ura spoke with Captain Mech about their route, Jun-Ho pulled Su-Jin aside. Earth Command wants me to steal Navian shield technology, he whispered. I think they might be working with the Dracs. Su-Jin's eyes widened. That's dangerous talk, Jun-Ho. But she hesitated. I've seen strange messages going between certain Earth officials and unknown sources. I thought it was nothing, but now I wonder. Their whispers were interrupted by a shout from outside. One of the guards had caught someone watching their camp. The guards dragged in a Navian man wearing servant's clothes. Prince Tal sent me, the man said when Captain Mech questioned him. I have proof of the human's treachery. The man held out a small device. When activated, it showed images of Jun-Ho and the Queen's shuttle, touching the main computer. These were taken before we left the capital, the man said. He was copying secret files. Jun-Ho stared in horror. That's not possible. I never touched that computer. The images look real, Captain Mech said, her hand on her weapon. Ura looked at Jun-Ho, her violet eyes filled with hurt. Did Earth order you to spy on us from the beginning? No. I mean, they did ask, but I refused. Jun-Ho held out his communicator. Look, I just got this message. I wasn't going to do it. But when he opened the device, the message from Earth Command was gone, deleted remotely. There's nothing there, Captain Mech said coldly. I'm telling the truth, Jun-Ho said desperately. These images are fake. Someone is setting me up. Ura's face had turned hard, all the warmth gone from her eyes. Captain Mech, arrest Jun-Ho Kim for espionage. Our engagement is ended. As the guards took his arms, Jun-Ho saw the Navian servant smirk. In that moment, he knew this was more than Prince Tal's plotting. Someone wanted to destroy the alliance between Earth and Navia. And they had just succeeded. Jun-Ho sat alone in a small room on the shuttle. They had returned to the vessel after his arrest, and Captain Mech had locked him in what served as a storage closet. His hands were bound with a strange Navian device that felt like liquid metal. I need to escape, he whispered to himself. I need to prove my innocence. Outside, he could hear the guards talking. They were waiting for help to arrive from the city. Once that happened, he would be taken back to the capital for trial. A trial he would surely lose. Jun-Ho looked around the small room. There were boxes of supplies, some tools for the shuttle, and air vents too small for even a child to crawl through. Nothing useful for escape. Then he noticed something. One of the guards who had brought him food earlier wore a pendant, a small crystal like the one Jun-Ho had given Queen Ura during his accidental proposal. The guard had been kind to him, offering water when the others wouldn't. When the same guard came with his evening meal, Jun-Ho spoke quietly. Your pendant, he said. You were helped by an Earth person once, weren't you? The guard's eyes widened. How did you know? An Earth doctor saved my daughter during the first contact 3 years ago. I wear this to remember. I need your help, Jun-Ho said. Not to escape, but to send a message. Someone is trying to destroy the alliance between our worlds. If that happens, the Dracs will win. The guard looked uncertain. Why should I believe you? Because I could have taken the Navian shield plans many times if I wanted to. I've been alone with the Queen. I've been in your most secure places, but I didn't, because I care about Era, about Queen Era, and about peace between our worlds. The guard was silent for a long moment. Then he slipped a small device from his pocket. One message. Make it quick. Jun-Ho sent 2 urgent messages, one to Su-Jin and one to Ambassador Hanbin, explaining everything and begging them to investigate who had sent the fake orders and created the false images. 2 hours later, the guard returned. Your friend Su-Jin sent this. He handed Jun-Ho a small data pad. She says it proves Prince Tal is working with someone on Earth, and that the Dracs will attack sooner than we thought. Jun-Ho read the information quickly. Su-Jin had discovered messages between Prince Tal and General Min, Earth's military leader. They planned to weaken both Earth and Navia so the Dracs could conquer both worlds easily. In return, they would be given power in the new Drax Empire. I need to get to Queen Era, Jun-Ho said urgently. The capital is in danger. The guard hesitated, then used his key to unlock Jun-Ho's restraints. If you're lying, we'll both be executed. I'm not lying, Jun-Ho promised. Thank you. What's your name? Kerr, the guard said. They slipped out of the shuttle while Captain Mech was speaking with the pilot. Jun-Ho took only a small pack with water and a Navian toolkit. They headed into the forest, taking a different path than before. There's a small transport station 2 hours from here, Kerr explained. We can get to the capital before morning. As they walked, a loud boom shook the ground. They turned to see the royal shuttle explode in flames. Captain Mech, Kerr cried out in horror. Someone is eliminating witnesses, Jun-Ho said grimly. We need to hurry. They ran through the silver forest, the sound of pursuit growing behind them. Whoever had set the explosion was now chasing them. At the transport station, Jun-Ho used his Earth knowledge to boost the small ship's engines beyond their normal capacity. The ship shot into the night sky just as their pursuers arrived at the station. How did you do that? Kerr asked, amazed at the speed. Human ingenuity, Jun-Ho said. Something the Dracs and their allies don't understand about us. We adapt, we improvise, and we never give up when people we care about are in danger. As their small ship raced toward the capital, Jun-Ho prayed they would arrive in time to save Era and stop the coming attack. The Navian capital glowed in the morning light as Jun-Ho and Kerr approached in their small ship, but something was wrong. Several large ships hovered over the royal palace. Those aren't Navian ships, Kerr said, his voice tight with fear. Those are Drax attack vessels. The invasion has already begun, Jun-Ho whispered. We're too late. They landed the ship in a small park near the palace and moved carefully through the city. People were running in the streets and alarm sounds filled the air. Guards were directing civilians to safety bunkers. The shield system should have kept those ships out, Kerr said. Someone must have turned it off. Prince Tal, Jun-Ho growled. We need to get into the palace. Kerr led Jun-Ho through back streets to a service entrance of the palace. The door was guarded by 2 Navian soldiers who raised their weapons when they saw Jun-Ho. Wait, Kerr called out. This human has proof of Prince Tal's treachery. He must see the Queen. The Queen is in the throne room with Prince Tal and the Drax commander, one guard said. No one is allowed in. Then the Queen is in danger, Jun-Ho said. Prince Tal is working with the Drax. He probably shut down the shields to let them in. The guards looked at each other, uncertain. Jun-Ho pulled out Su-Jin's datapad. Look, he said, showing them the evidence. Prince Tal and an Earth general planned this together. I need to stop them both. After a moment, One guard nodded. I'll take you to the throne room through the secret passages. But if you're lying, I'm not, Jun-Ho promised. The fate of both our worlds depends on this. They moved through narrow hallways hidden in the palace walls. Jun-Ho heard sounds of fighting in some parts of the palace. The Drax soldiers had already entered. Finally, they reached a small door that the guard said led to the back of the throne room. I'll create a distraction at the main entrance, the guard whispered. You slip in through here. Jun-Ho nodded. As the guard left, he turned to Kerr. You should get to safety. Kerr shook his head. My daughter lives because of Earth's help. I will stand with you. Inside the throne room, Jun-Ho saw a terrible scene. Queen Era sat on her throne, but her hands were bound. Prince Tal stood beside her with a weapon pointed at her head. In front of them stood a tall, gray-skinned alien in black armor, the Drax commander. The shield codes are yours, Prince Tal was saying. Now fulfill your promise. I am to be ruler of Navia under Drax protection. The Drax commander made a sound like laughter. Changes have been made to our agreement. Navia will have no ruler. Your people will serve as workers for the Drax Empire. Prince Tal's face showed shock. That wasn't our deal. I gave you access to our world. Deals change, the Drax commander said coldly. From his hiding place, Jun-Ho saw movement near the main doors. The guard was creating his distraction. Now was the time to act. He whispered to Kerr, when I move, free the queen. Without waiting for an answer, Jun-Ho burst from the hidden door. He threw a small tool from the ship at the Drax commander's head, hitting him hard. The alien roared in pain. Prince Tal turned in surprise, pointing his weapon at Jun-Ho. But he was too slow. Jun-Ho threw himself forward, tackling the prince to the ground. They fought for control of the weapon. Kira ran to Queen Era and freed her hands. She immediately rose, her face showing both surprise and relief at seeing Jun-Ho. Stop, she commanded in a voice that rang through the room. Guards. Royal guards rushed in from the main doors, surrounding the Drax commander. More guards poured in from side doors. Jun-Ho pinned Prince Tal to the floor. Tell her, he demanded. Tell her how you betrayed your own people. Prince Tal's face twisted with hate. Humans are weak. The Drax promised power. Queen Era stood tall, her violet eyes blazing with anger. The true weakness is betraying those who trust you. She looked at Jun-Ho. And the true strength is standing by them, even when all seems lost. 6 months had passed since the day of the Drax attack. Jun-Ho stood on a balcony of the royal palace, looking out at the Navian capital city. The 3 moons hung in the purple sky, and the crystal towers gleamed in their light. Thinking deep thoughts, Su-Jin asked, joining him at the railing. Jun-Ho smiled at his friend. Just remembering how all this started. One small mistake in a greeting. Some might call it fate, Su-Jin said, though I call it terrible pronunciation. They both laughed. Much had changed since that day in the throne room. Prince Tal had been imprisoned for treason. On Earth, General Min had been arrested when Ambassador Hanbin presented the evidence Su-Jin had found. The Drax commander captured in the palace had provided valuable information about the enemy's plans. With this knowledge, Earth and Navia had formed a true alliance, combining Earth's military tactics with Navian shield technology to create a defense system stronger than anything either world could build alone. The first joint fleet launches tomorrow, Su-Jin said. 20 ships with mixed Earth and Navian crews. I know, Jun-Ho said. I've been helping Queen Era, plan the ceremony. Su-Jin raised an eyebrow, still using her title, even now. Before Jun-Ho could answer, the balcony doors opened. Queen Era stepped out, her blue skin glowing softly in the moonlight. She wore simpler clothes now when not at official functions, though her royal crystal crown still caught the light above her head. There you are, she said to Jun-Ho. The Earth ambassador has arrived with the final agreement. Su-Jin bowed to the queen. I'll leave you two alone. As she passed Ara, she smiled and added, "He's nervous about tomorrow." When Su-jin had gone, Ara moved next to Jun-ho at the railing. "Are you truly nervous?" she asked. Jun-ho took a deep breath. "A little. It's not every day a human marries the queen of an alien empire." "Second thoughts?" she asked, her violet eyes watching him closely. "No," he said firmly. "Not about us. Just wondering how I went from junior diplomat to royal consort in less than a year." Era laughed, the sound like music on the night air. "The universe works in strange ways, Jun-ho Kim." The royal wedding would take place after the fleet launch ceremony. It would be broadcast to both Earth and Navia as a symbol of their alliance. Jun-ho had spent weeks learning the proper Navian vows, this time making sure his pronunciation was perfect. "Captain Mech survived," Era said suddenly. "They found her and 2 guards alive on the moon. They had escaped the shuttle explosion." Jun-ho smiled with relief. "That's wonderful news. Will she be back for the wedding?" "She insisted on it. She said she needs to see for herself that you are worthy of being my consort." "And am I worthy?" Jun-ho asked softly. Era took his hand, her blue fingers twining with his. "You have proven yourself many times over. You chose the good of both our worlds over your own safety. You fought for peace when others wanted war. And," she paused, "you saw me as more than a queen. You saw me as a person." Jun-ho looked at their joined hands, one human, one Navian. So different, yet fitting together perfectly. "Tomorrow, we face the future together," Era said. "Our words will be heard on 2 worlds. What shall we tell them? Jun-ho Kim of Earth." Jun-ho thought for a moment. "That differences can become strengths when we stand together. That mistakes can lead to wonderful things if we are brave enough to follow where they lead. And that sometimes the heart knows what is right before the mind understands why." Era smiled. Not bad for a diplomat who couldn't even say a simple greeting correctly. Jun-ho laughed. "Perhaps there are no mistakes, only paths we were meant to find." As they stood together under the 3 moons of Navia, Jun-ho knew that his accidental proposal had been the best mistake of his life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as the combined fleet prepared to face the Dracs. But whatever came next, Earth and Navia would face it together. And so would they.